Hi, and welcome to The Leader's Edge, our weekly live interview show where Georgia Donaldson and I, Emily Chiwa, feature successful CEOs and professionals who are so kind to share their stories with us. We want to bring awareness, inspiration, and leadership tips for you to action to help you sharpen your competitive advantage and make a positive impact in your organization and community. Remember, if you are watching us live or even catching the replay, you can leave a comment on LinkedIn for any of the speakers to address. Our topic today and our guest is Liza Yunis. And Georgia, as usual, will introduce her, Lisa, very shortly. And we are talking, and Lisa is passionate, and we are talking about this idea of building a culture of health. So before we invite Georgia to introduce our lovely guest, who is a picture of health, as Georgia said, and so she's walking the talk there. I want you to consider, when you think of culture, what do you think about? And in the organizational context, we usually think about how we work and the environment, which reflects the culture of the company that we're in. And when you hear health, what comes to mind? And I think for a lot of us, it might be an individual thing, like our individual probably challenges with our physical health or overall well-being. But today, Lisa wants us to consider putting these two ideas together. So, Georgia, let's begin.
Okay, thank you very much, Emily. Monday morning again, and we have a beautiful guest with us talking about building a culture of health. Last week, I pulled out my pearls for our guest. Today, I'm pulling out my teacup for this guest because this guest is a tea master with the UK Tea Council. It's unusual for us to start introducing our guest with something like that because we usually talk about their corporate works. But tea is so essential to life. I'm a tea girl too, right? And we're talking about health, and there are lots of health benefits to tea. So, Liza Yunis, she is an important person with Blue Coast and Blue Stream because she is a general manager at Blue Coast and the international marketing and corporate communications person at Blue Stream Ecosystem. Lisa is someone who has lived in different places. Guess where she lived at one point in time? She lived in Hawaii. Yes, I've never been there and I want to go, Lisa. So the next time I'm thinking of going, you're going to be my partner. And she opened a native Hawaiian tea room in Hawaii. She has over 20 years of experience in international business, and she has driven significant sustainable revenue for clients and her own initiatives as well. Those are just a few of the little things about Lisa. But Lisa, you are a busy woman. Why is it that you're going to spend your time as a leader talking about health? So many other things to do. Why talk about health?
Well, I think being busy means that you're really passionate about making sure that your life is full of dimension. And I don't think that life should be fragmented. So the version of me that is at home or the version of me that is outside having fun is the version of me that I bring to the office. And that integration of life and integration of the interests that you have outside of work, that energy flows into work. And then the positive energy that you create in the office, you take back home into your family space and into your relationships. So I don't think that this idea of living in silos really is applicable. I'm very passionate about living an integrated life.
Ah, okay. And you have seen it work.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I feel it work. I
Ah,
feel
good.
it myself. Yes.
Yes. I know when we spoke, Emily and I spoke with you recently, you shared some interesting things that you do at work with respect to health. Would you want to just start off now quickly and share some of the things that you do?
Okay, sure, no problem. Well, the principle of it is that health is the table on which everything sits on.
Ah, I
I
love
know
that. You want
in
to say
your
that again, Lisa? Say that again.
I said health is the table on which everything sits on.
Mm-hmm.
So when that table is shaky or if it comes crumbling down, everything
Mm-hmm.
that you thought was important before has a way of, just falling to the side and not being prioritized. So there's a phrase that goes, if you don't make time for your wellness, your illness will make the time for you.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
So you really, it is about prioritizing your wellness. And by your wellness and your health, I don't just mean like your physical health. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you look at the quadrants of your life, which include your relationships, which your mental health, your financial wellness, your sense of purpose and your sense of agency in life. And how do you unlock the potential um, for that, given the environment that you live in. And that requires a lot of active listening and a lot of responding and a lot of initiative and encouragement and endorsement from your leadership and from your management. So within here, what I would say, my source of inspiration really came from, I don't know if you ever heard of this guy, Rick Rubin.
Rick
So
No,
Rubin. I'm not
Rick
sure.
Rubin.
can't
So
say that.
so so Rick Rubin is the co-founder of Def Jam Records, and
Oh,
he's he wrote a book called what's it called, The Creative Act, A Way of Being,
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't play a single instrument, nor can he sing, but he has brought an almost mystical understanding to how we unlock our creativity through
Mm-hmm.
nature and movement. And that's one of the big things that he endorses. So when I read his book, he's talked about walk and talk meetings.
mhm.
And he gave some insight into how the act of walking in a direction together, moving out from behind a laptop, having a discussion, how that brings a different dynamic into the way that you make decisions and the way that you view problems and the way that you connect with each other.
Right.
And so that was the first initiative that we brought into Blue Stream Space. Because I thought, oh, okay, let's just try this and see how it works. And so
Ah.
we had Wednesday morning meetings in botanical gardens or in West Park. Um, sometimes we overreached and we went up to Breezy Hill, and there's not much talking in that one, but there's a different way of connecting. And
Mm-hmm.
and that was special. We saw a connection between the team
Mm-hmm.
that happened outside of the workspace, where there's a thriving energy that
Mm-hmm.
starts transitioning over from um, the promises that we make to ourselves outside of the workspace into how we perform. And I mean, I don't want it to sound academic, because you could do a
Right.
whole course on this subject.
Yeah.
It's all related to productivity and motivation and reduce absenteeism. But it's so much bigger than that, right? We're really about how do we create a space where we all feel like we're thriving. Because if
Mm-hmm.
I win and you win, then we win and the company wins.
Absolutely.
And so it's a really an environment in which we advocate strongly for. Some of the other initiatives, I mean, and they're all
So, so
all
even
community driven.
yeah, so even before you jump to the other initiatives, I'm curious. So you set aside what, a half an hour, and you go to botanical gardens and you have an agenda and it's a meeting. And how many people are in this? I'm just curious because I'm like thinking logistically. Sorry,
And
but
Oh,
my
yeah,
logistic
practical.
mind is like working. I mean, I could see it okay with a one-on-one, maybe two or three person. I'm assuming it has to be
so
more
it
than
doesn't really get, sometimes you'll have 6 or 7 and then
yeah,
you'll break off into two,
yeah.
or you break
And are
off
you
in one
literally
on one.
walking while having the meeting, or are you sit like did you go and sit somewhere?
No, we walk and talk. So you don't have a
Yeah,
hard agenda.
yeah,
You have
Mm-hmm.
you
simple.
have something that you want to brainstorm, or you want a
Right, more of
problem
a
that you want to
brainstorm.
troubleshoot.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And it's just a way of saying, okay, well, we've released all of the note taking and the concept of being right and wrong, and it's a dialogue, and
Right.
it's a dialogue that's coming from a different space where I feel like the positive energy puts you into creative mode rather than into a problem mode.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
there's no venting that happens in that conversation. It's like,
Yes, I love
how,
that.
how do we advance? How do we advance? How do we advance?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that trickled down into saying, like, okay, what are the other things that are important to us? And by us, I don't mean just me, if they're important to me, but what is important to all of us. And we looked at so the physical wellness, we split it up into three. And it's physical wellness, mental and emotional wellness, and financial wellness. Because we can't take
Mhm.
the money out of the conversation, because that's a
No.
source of stress for all of us. Um,
Exactly. It's a source of stress if it's not in the right space.
Yes.
If we don't have
right.
it sort of
Right. So you
organized.
have to figure out like how are you framing the
Mhm.
conversation that's going to advance our financial wellness.
Right.
So I could start off there in the sense that we do internal webinars that address planning for the rest of your life, writing a will. Um, what other things do we do? The best places to shop for deals at Christmas time, um, things like that. Way how to create a budget, how to invest your disposable income well, and you'd be surprised. I know Emily, because you've been in finance. Maybe this has not been your experience, but for a lot of women coming through the secondary school system, financial literacy was not something that was
Mhm.
part of our curriculum.
No.
Yeah.
So we come out into the workspace and it's like, okay, how do I be proactive and be responsible for my financial wellness,
Mhm.
rather than just being reactive? And I know it's a tall order, but we start somewhere and that confidence builds,
Yeah.
and the momentum builds as well, because the collective energy around that is powerful. We're championing each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think women, I think people in general, I mean, even though, yes, I'm surprised because of the amount of because I was around it. Working with
Mhm.
banking and finance. So yes, in school, from a school perspective, maybe not. I would agree. And yes, I am still surprised by professionals, as you said, that are not as fully aware of the different ways they can manage their money and how they can do it
Mhm.
better. And I don't know, there's a little bit of shame around it of not knowing because you're a professional, so you should know these things. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's good. It's an excellent initiative to open up, to have people talk about it and think about it in a responsible way outside of like a company trying to sell you.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. That's
And
true.
it has to be actionable and implementable, right? So we're very,
Yes.
very pragmatic and very, very practical about the kind of advice or the kind of support that we share.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
let's talk about the community thing. I think you were going to go that way when I asked you the question about the walk and talk
Yeah,
meeting.
yeah. I'll
Yeah.
leave the fun ones for last. The fun ones for last.
Okay.
So
And don't forget about food.
Oh
yes,
yeah.
so
So we have
yeah, yeah. So we
good.
will definitely get into that, but I want to make sure that I address like the mental and emotional part of it
Mm-hmm.
as well. So sometimes it's tricky
Yeah.
to have those conversations during the workspace. So we curate spaces for that. So we will have like team friending, um, virtual team friending sessions where you get paired up with somebody that you probably don't even know in the organization, because it's like 200 of us. So you might never have met someone until you meet them virtually. And then you get these random questions that you ask each other, like, what did you change your mind on in 2024? And that sparks a conversation. So when you see this person eventually, there is this kind of like, hey, how are you
A
doing?
connection.
Oh,
Yes.
yes, there's the connection. And that connection is really important to feeling that sense of belonging
Mm-hmm. That's
within an organization. So we have coffee meets, we have webinars, and like we look at topics like parenting, teenagers, things that are that we struggle with in and
mm-hmm.
outside of the 24 hours of a day. So it really is about creating those kind of safe spaces for conversations.
Mm,
When it comes to our physical health, um, we look at so we have like a WhatsApp group chat which focuses on education and advancing around exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So there's no work in that chat. Not talking about the corporate
no,
work.
no, no, not at all, not at all. So we
Okay.
talk about the way that we can biohack our bodies. So you understand getting to understand your bodies better, so you
mhm,
understand what's good for it.
Mm-hmm.
The movement and the nutrition and the sleep, those three pillars.
Mm-hmm.
So we chat about those a lot. And then the nutrition part of it opened out into, hey, what, this is a real challenge for us on a day-to-day basis. We have multi-generational uh, employees.
Right.
So some people may not know how to cook. Some people are single, so the idea of cooking for one is like not practical. Some people just don't have the time and they're too busy. And it was, how do we make healthier choices, easier choices? So we started doing cooking. We did a cooking class in, we have a kitchen in our office where it was how to make unprocessed food and unprocessed meals easily.
Mm.
So for those that didn't know how to cook, they came and they learned how to make, like, callaloo without all of the additional additives. We
Okay.
learned quinoa salad. We learned how to, just things that are really easy to make. You throw the chicken in the oven, okay, and then you have some. So those cooking classes were supported by shopping together.
Mm-hmm.
So you go to the market and you get fresh stuff, and we advocate. So we buy almond milk, and that's what we have in our fridges. We also have bears, but we have almond milk. But so it really is advocating for fueling ourselves
Mm-hmm.
responsibly.
Mhm.
The other initiatives, we have a run club which is called the Wannabe Run Club, because none of us are quite, you know,
Yeah, I could join that club.
professional runners. So we all run at our own pace, but it really is encouraging because you have that accountability partnership where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
if we all go together, we're gonna get something done, whether it's 2K or 7K or whatever it is. But building that into the after work, we have employees who walk every day and then they post it online. And then when they go and people see them, the consistency that they show up for themselves, how inspirational that is. Because,
Mhm.
and then they say, I live in San Fernando. I'm going to start a walk club in San Fernando. So for all the employees in San Fernando who want to walk with me, so what you are getting, champions within your own organization who are cheerleading this message,
Mm-hmm.
supported by leadership and developing their own micro communities and micro cultures. And I feel that that is the most powerful way of embedding the culture because
Mm-hmm.
it's not driven from the top. It's being actioned by
It's right across now.
yes, it
So,
is.
Okay.
so that is what I was gonna ask you, Lisa, in terms of like when you mentioned the cooking, and is it something that like the organization brings in people to do this, or is it like within the community itself, within the organization, there are persons who might want to volunteer to lead a class? Or,
Me,
I'm just curious.
I
You
volunteer.
you are the volunteer.
I volunteer.
You
So
like
I
okay,
volunteer, and
mhm,
then they'll have other people who will volunteer as
volunteer to
well,
do other things.
right? Or they will cook, and they'll cook for more than themselves, and
Mm-hmm,
they'll
Mm-hmm.
bring it in, and then they'll share the recipe on the chat,
mm-hmm,
um, so that people can go and try it at home themselves to say, okay, this is
Mm-hmm.
an easy one, and then people will take pictures of the food that they made, and they'll post it, and they said thanks for the recipe, and so you're seeing this trickle down effect
right.
that. So I would say that what you don't want is for it to feel like it's forced,
Yeah.
Yes. I was
right?
I was about to go
You
there.
don't want it to feel like that. And then the
But if
more
it
you
is,
do,
then you would have missed the mark because the
yes,
whole point of it would have been lost, right?
yes. So the question is always, Lisa, when we going on the next hike? Should we
Mm-hmm.
sign up for this 5K? Should we do
Mm-hmm.
that? And
As a
and you,
group. Mm-hmm.
yeah, but you're getting the WhatsApp messages coming in. Say, hey, I saw this, this walk and tea up in Couva. Anybody wants to go. So it's no
Mm-hmm.
longer even Blue Stream branded.
Right.
It's community and it feels like community engagement where I'm doing this. Anybody
Mm-hmm.
wants to join in?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's
And
from the
you
ground up and spreading across.
Yeah, it's not even to say like, Bluestream has its own calendar of
Mm-hmm.
stuff that drives this engagement,
Mm-hmm.
but they also have cheerleaders within the ecosystem that say, hey, I feel safe enough to say I'm doing this. Would anybody like to join me? And
Okay, good.
inevitably you'll get people joining in and creating memories, and you see the trickle down effect of it being very
Yes.
transformative. Um, the important thing is how do you want it to feel, not necessarily what you want it to look like.
Mm-hmm.
It's how do you want to feel at when you show up on Monday. Do you want to feel energized, and do you want to feel like you're coming into a space where everyone is cheerleading your success?
Right. That's good.
And I can say that, for a lot of us it does feel like that. For a lot of us it does feel like that. And I'm saying the ones that choose to engage, because none of this is mandatory.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
right.
None of it is mandatory. It's all, if this fits with you,
Mm-hmm.
welcome on board.
Okay,
Right.
wonderful.
Yeah.
It is 7:21 and we could go
Yes,
on
I
and
know. I now
on,
looked at the
Lisa,
time.
because this is so interesting. There are not many companies that can say that they have this organic kind of growth in their organization of building community through health. So
Yes,
congratulations on that.
yes.
Emily, we're coming to a wrap. So what do we want people to leave with? If somebody comes in at the last minute of this talk, what would you
Mhm.
like to do moving forward?
I would say, recognize that we all have influence.
Mm-hmm.
So what my what I might say my super skill is, may not be, it may be different to Emily's, may be different, but recognize that you have influence, and then you take the initiative and create spaces, even if it's one on one or one on five,
Mm-hmm.
where the conversations and connections can happen.
Right.
And out of those spaces, you are going to see that you're going to make magic.
Yes.
You're going to make magic. And
That's
you're
where
going to
magic happens.
hold, and then that magic creates its own momentum. And when you enjoy doing something, you will realize in your energy log that you're really excited to share it with other people.
Mhm.
Wonderful. Wonderful, Lisa. What better words to end our show on, Emily? Over to you to wrap.
Yeah. So, Lisa, we just want to thank you for, bringing a different, a different way of looking at how we integrate. And you started off with integration, right? Something
Hmm.
as important as our health into our organizations and making that a win for all of us.
Right.
And, doing it in a way that it's obviously not forced because it's an individual choice, but encouraging people to want
Mm-hmm.
to engage in something that's healthy for their well-being, whether it is physical, mental, and even financial. Because I think a lot of us don't think of how much the financial stress can impact the rest of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I enjoyed hearing about what you guys are doing over at Blue Stream and Blue Coast, and what you have brought to the table. And what was the thing you said? What was the quote on table that you said in the early?
Oh, I said health is a table on which everything sits,
So
or
health is a
everything rests.
table on which everything
Yes.
rests, and I think we should end it right there. So I hope you guys took one or two ideas from this and will try to implement.
Cheers to the
Cheers.
tea lady.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to
Yes.
health.
Have
But
an amazing.
you know, not tea, but
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
so
have an
everyone have a great week and
have
thank
an
Yes.
you.
amazing
And,
week.
and thanks for all those. I'm seeing some ladies who have joined us this morning online. Thank you to all of you for joining us.
Yes,
Thanks,
absolutely.
Lisa. Have a lovely week.
Yeah.
Okay, you too.
Take
Bye
Bye.
care.
bye.
Bye.
Bye.